We used to sing a song back in the day titled I Would Not Be Denied, written in 1900, as a matter of fact. It's not saying much anymore, but it is printed in about 87 American hymn books, including the last three Assemblies of God hymn books. Now, I don't know if this song was ever sang in India, so I'm going to read the chorus. I'm not going to sing it, I'm just going to read it. The chorus goes like this: I would not be denied, I would not be denied, till Jesus came and made me whole. I would not be denied. Now, this chorus would be repeated over and over, sometimes 5, sometimes 10 or more times, until the truth sinks in. Back in the day, we sang it till we got it. The point is, when coming to God, persistence pays off. As a result of this message this morning, or this afternoon for most people, I want you to persist in seeking God and let nothing hinder you from coming to Jesus. And basically, that's the title of my message, I Would Not Be Denied. Our text is Luke chapter 18, verses 2 through 5. I'm going to read it from the NIV Bible. He said, in a certain town, there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared about men. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with this plea: grant me justice against my adversary. For some time he refused, but finally he said to himself, even though I don't fear God and I don't care about men, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice so that she won't eventually wear me out with her coming. Saints, what I'm saying is, let's be more like that widow. In this parable, the woman continued to come for justice until she got it. Not because the judge was about justice, he wasn't, but she was relentless. Now, we know that God is not reluctant to bless us with what we need. It's not that at all. But sometimes the problem is this: we don't even care enough about our own problems to persist in getting to God. This is still a common problem with the people of God even today. And so there's a lesson for us in this passage. The lesson is this: persistence pays off. And I think I did something to... No, I didn't. Persistence pays off. This woman cared about a solution enough to push through to get what she needed. Now, we're talking about an attitude not of presumption, an attitude not of arrogance, an attitude of not insolent rudeness, but an attitude of determination, tenacity, hope, desperate resolution, otherwise known as faith. So ask yourself, what is it that you still lack in your life? And what is it that hinders you from getting to Jesus? Whatever you think the answer is, it is mostly this: you must persist. You must not let anything stand in your way. And you must believe that it's not too late. But there are some barriers that you may have to push through. Sometimes it's people. People hinder you from getting to Jesus. It happens. The crowds get in the way. But don't let people be the reason you don't push through and get to the Lord. The Bible tells a story in Matthew, or rather Mark chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Some men came bringing to him a paralytic, carried by four of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus, and after digging through the roof, that is, they lowered the mat the paralyzed man was laying on. You see, crowds can physically hinder a person from getting to Jesus, but these desperate friends got past the crowds because they knew how to persist. Still, A crowd can block access. Sometimes it's unintentional, as in this case. The crowd did not intend to block anyone from getting to Jesus. But still, these men were blocked from getting their friend to the one who could supply the answer. And they wanted to get their friend to Jesus the most desperate way, but they could not get through the crowd. So they went up to the roof, and this roof was strong. It was strong enough to hold at least the weight of at least 5 men. So it was a substantial roof. The roof that they dug through was a substantial roof. So it took some time to do this. They lowered their friend through this hole. It must have been a good-sized hole, so that he could get to Jesus. Saints, let me tell you, that's the kind of friends I want. But this still happens. People who need a touch from God don't get what they need because they don't persist. Even when the Spirit of God is tugging at a person's heart, they don't want to always get up in church and step over someone's feet so that they can go to the altar. There's just too many people in the way. But we must never let the crowds stop us from coming to the altar and getting to Jesus. Now, it's true, crowds can hinder you from getting to the Lord. Sometimes it's unintentional, but sometimes it's actually deliberate. It says in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 3 and 4, "For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They think it strange that you do not plunge with them into the same flood of dissipation, and they heap abuse on you." You see, the crowd wants conformity. Now, starlings, that's a kind of bird. It's not native to the Americas, but it was brought over from Europe, and they just multiplied, and they're everywhere. And I don't know if there are starlings in India, but let me tell you, when you see a flock of starlings from a distance, it looks like a black cloud in the sky, a cloud that moves and changes direction all at the same time. Thousands of birds flock together, and they fly together at the same time, same direction, same speed, and they don't break with the crowd. And it's just amazing to watch as they all move together back and forth across the sky. It's like they had one mind. You see, that's what the crowd wants from you, to go their direction and to do what they're doing. Saints, don't be a starling. And it's not just the crowds. Sometimes it's religion that can hinder you from getting to Jesus. Still, religion it's not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. Here in America, for some reason, we've adopted the idea that religion is bad. Well, some religion is, but there is a true and pure religion. And that religion is about blessing widows and orphans. In other words, that kind of religion is about putting your faith into action, doing what you say you believe. But it's true, not all religion is pure. It says in Matthew chapter 15, verses 22 through 28, a Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession." Now picture this story in your mind as I continue to read this passage. In verse 23, Jesus did not answer her a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us." In verse 24, he answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The woman came and knelt before him. "Lord, help me," she said. Skipping to verse 26, he replied, It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs. Yes, Lord, she said. But even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. In verse 28, then Jesus answered, Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. Now, some of the things that Jesus said to her may not sound right, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I want us to look at and consider her example of determination. She persisted. She would not be denied. Now, again, religion can be the thing that keeps people from God. The way it's always been can be a problem. That is, religious traditions can be the roadblock. Now, not all tradition is a bad thing. Matter of fact, some tradition is actually good. But Jesus did condemn the tradition of men that was substituted for the commands of God. And he did condemn any religious tradition that made it hard to come to God. In Matthew 23, verse 13, Jesus said, Woe to you, Pharisees, teachers of the law, hypocrites! You shut the kingdom of heaven in men's faces. You do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Now, it sounds contradictory that religion would keep anyone from Jesus, but sometimes it's the main offender. Here's the problem. A religion of tradition has no power. It says in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 5, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. Now, as a child, I had a toy ray gun. I happen to have a picture here. I'm going to show it to you. Make sure I get it right here. That, I think I have it centered. That is fairly accurate to the ray gun I had. I couldn't find the exact one, but it stands out in my mind because that ray gun was a great disappointment to me. Well, let me tell you about it. It would light up. It would make noise. It had the form of a real ray gun, but it didn't have the power to shoot a ray. How fun is that? By the time people finally trust in the Lord, they've already tried powerless but respectable religion. That was a thing that they distracted them from the real. Saints, it's a mistake to offer religion that only has the form. It may look right, but it has no power. You see, many people have been there. They've done that. And they don't want any more of that powerless religion. What I'm saying, saints, this morning is don't be afraid of the power of God. Don't let it be something that you turn away from. Don't let it be something that you don't know about. Embrace the power of the Holy Spirit and let the power of the Holy Spirit be part of what moves you and directs you and leads you. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute. It seems like Jesus was the one who was using religious tradition as an excuse to not help this Canaanite woman. I think you know Jesus well enough to know that that's not the case. That's not what he was doing. He would never do that. Let me explain it this way. Jesus knew this woman's heart, and he was using this as a teaching moment, not for her, but for his disciples. Let me reiterate the story. First of all, he ignored her. Then he said to her, I came for the lost sheep of Israel, not for you. And then he said, I can't take the children's bread and give it to their dogs. This may not sound like much of a lesson. And again, it wasn't a lesson for the woman. It was a lesson for the disciples because he was mocking their religious attitudes. You see, the Jews, even the disciples, held those kinds of attitudes. She's a Canaanite. We don't have time for her. She's a Canaanite. She is distracting us from our mission. Tell her to go away. She's a Canaanite, a dog, and doesn't deserve anything good from God. Those were the attitudes of the disciples, but not Jesus. He had time for her, and she was his mission. And God loved her, so she had value. Not only that, this woman would not be denied. She had the right attitude. She pressed in, and she didn't let religion stand in her way. And she got to Jesus because she wouldn't give up. She knew that Jesus was able and that he wanted to heal her daughter and that he would deliver her daughter. What I'm saying, saints, is don't let faulty religious thinking of others keep you from getting to Jesus. Now, it could be the crowd, or it might be bad religious tradition, but sometimes it's the passage of time that keeps people from Jesus. That is the main hindrance of getting to Jesus. That is, so much time has passed already. Jesus came to a man who had been suffering for some 38 years. Imagine if you had been paralyzed, crippled for 38 years, how helpless, how hopeless the situation would seem to you. This man had all but given up hope. It says in John chapter 5, verses 2, 3, and skipping to verse 5, now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool which is called Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. And you see, that's the problem. He could never make it to the pool in time. And with the passage of time, hope begins to fade. And the condition seems permanent, more permanent. Now, we live in a world every day where children across the world go blind. Vitamin A deficiency is a leading cause of blindness in this world. 500,000 children are affected every year. The cure is simple. Give kids vitamin A. It will prevent blindness, and if they are blind, it can even reverse blindness. Unless, of course, you wait too long. Then the damage from vitamin A deficiency becomes permanent. You see, that's how problems are. If you wait too long to deal with them, they become deeply rooted habits. If you let them linger, they become entrenched in your thinking. If you don't find a solution, they become very hard to reverse. But what's impossible with men is not even hard for the Lord. The condition that this man was in was about as bad as it could get. And aside from God, there really was no hope. But you see, that didn't make it more difficult for Jesus. Jesus came to him and said, "Get up, take up your bed and walk." And he was healed as quick as that. So no matter what you need from God, no matter how long you have yearned for a solution, no matter how entrenched it is, no matter what obstacles have hindered you, it's not too hard for Jesus. So don't let people, don't let the crowds, don't let false religion And don't let time hinder you from coming to Jesus. Saints, we live in the age of grace. And this happens to be also the age of God's favor. And this is the age of the stirring of the waters. God is doing things. Don't deny his power. Walk in it and live in it. Thank you so much.